Suicide. When a person is going through such feelings, many times family and friends don't know how to help. But there is help. If you feel depressed or lonely, there are many resources to help you. Call a trusted relative, friend, or minister, or call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline toll free at 800-273-TALK. That's 800-273-TALK. All of us are here to help.
WTIM. Good morning, Central Illinois, and welcome to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai. We are 6 days removed now from the spring primary elections in Illinois, and there's much to make of how it all went down. And here to talk about all of that and much more is Dr. Kent Redfield, a professor of political science at the University of Illinois, Springfield. Dr. Redfield, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on this morning. So I want to start with some of the statewide races, the races for governor and U.S. Senate, among others. And, it seems like from the way it went down, some of the candidates that appeared, it seemed like there was the Republican Party who kind of struggled to find some what they would consider viable candidates to put on the ballot. Is that kind of what it seemed like to you in terms of how the races went down?
Yeah, and we are kind of continuing a pattern with the Republican Party statewide. Has been, bolstered, since former Governor Rauner won for office, with a lot of support from not only Governor Rauner but two other billionaires, Ken Griffin and Richard Ueland, and so the party itself has had some really serious economic problems, and you don't, this time around, you didn't have anybody running for governor that was trying to also promote downstate candidates in the Republican primary, and so you ended up with a situation where there's actually no Republican nominee at this point to oppose the Democratic state treasurer, Mike Barrett. That's the first time in almost 100 years, as far as people can tell, when one of the major political parties could not find someone to even fill nominating papers, and so that means that other than the governor's office, you're really not going to see any serious contests for Attorney General, Secretary of State, the down ballot positions, and there's some question, about how competitive even the governor's race is going to be. So that made, it means that when you get to the polls, go in and vote in November, that there's going to be a lot of blank spaces there on the in terms of Republican challengers to some of these statewide offices, and that's a pattern statewide. Locally, we are becoming more and more polarized in terms of our politics, and we have serious gerrymandering in terms of partisan gerrymandering, in terms of things like congressional districts and stuff. And so, we got downstate, we've got a couple of Democrats that will probably win pretty comfortably, and three Republicans that will also win their congressional districts pretty comfortably. And when citizens go to the polls and they really don't feel like there's much competition, if they get to the polls, and that's another problem is if you don't have races that are being contested, then people tend to go to vote for president or governor. That's the thing that gets them motivated, and and then, they will vote for county offices and state legislative offices and things. But you didn't have much driving people to the polls, last Tuesday, and that certainly with a midterm election, no presidential election, it's probably going to be a struggle, and that's we certainly would like to see a lot more people engaged in politics, but when there are no choices out there, it's hard to get people excited.
Yeah, and you've talked before about gerrymandering, and it seemed like from everything you've said now and in your past conversations with us that played a big factor as well.
Yeah, there's the Democrats have controlled the process for the last two maps, three maps for the legislative, two maps for the congressional, and Supreme Court has essentially thrown up their hands in terms of challenges to maps that are politically unfair. You cannot draw a map that has unequal population. You cannot discriminate on the basis of race, for instance, in terms of drawing maps. But a map that is drawn to advantage one political party over the other, the court has basically said, the Supreme Court has said that that's something that really is up to the states, that they are not going to, they can't really engage that. And so that means that, again, you look at downstate Illinois, and we have two Democratic districts that were drawn to elect Democrats, one in Rockford to the Quad Cities, down to Peoria, that kind, and then another one from Champaign all the way down to Metro East, and then three Republican congressional districts that are basically what was left over after the Democrats created those two Democrat-leaning districts. And that means that, particularly when you have incumbents, that there's no real contests in the primary and no real contests in the general election. And that's, it's people, particularly if you're an independent, then you want to see, campaigns and discussions of issues, that just doesn't happen when you get these extreme partisan gerrymanders. The same thing for the state legislature. Again, we look at, there's a Senate district that runs from Decatur to Springfield, a companion House district that were carved out basically to elect a Democratic senator and a Democratic rep, and then everything else gets built around it. So it's not a good situation if you're trying to, get issues discussed, see competition between the parties, so that you get a lot of incumbents that are sitting in pretty safe districts that and not much of a campaign.
And I think a lot of people who would have seen both the Republican and Democratic ballots, at least if they saw them before they went, because they wouldn't have seen both at poll time. I probably would have seen, a lot of those races where, there are candidates in one party, but not the other. I want to talk also a little bit about where Governor J.B. Pritzker kind of fits into all of this, because he endorsed a couple of candidates for those statewide offices, and it all comes, of course, as there has been talk of him possibly running for president. How did these elections maybe affect those possibilities of him running for president later on?
Yeah, and so he endorsed his lieutenant governor candidate for the U.S. Senate, and provided a significant amount of money to her campaign fund and some independent expenditure groups, and then also was very prominent in the late campaign that the winning candidate, former representative or Lieutenant Governor Stratton, ran. And so you had a Democratic congressman, Raja Krishnamurthy, who had raised close to $30 million and spent a lot of money in downstate ads and ads in the suburbs and Chicago, and seemed to, be dominating the campaign. And the Stratton campaign came in late, and turned out to be the right strategy when, people really didn't have a good sense of who the candidates were. And so that, the governor is getting a lot of credit, particularly in some national, media for, being the kingmaker. And the same situation to a lesser extent in the one contested race for a statewide office on the Democratic side, the comptroller's office. His candidate, Croak, again, won, a contested race, but you could see again the impact of the governor's messaging and his money in terms of financing that campaign. Losing either of those would have hurt him, and he's not very high in the polls in terms of nationally who people are thinking about for president. And so it certainly benefits him to be perceived as, somebody that can deliver and raise money and be a factor in Illinois politics. But the damage from losing would have been greater than the plus from winning. But certainly we don't know what his ambitions ultimately will be. Everybody assumes that if he wins in November, that he's going to focus pretty clearly on seeing whether or not he can become a top tier candidate for the Democratic nomination.
Yeah. Dr. Kent Redfield, we'll have to take a break right here. And then when we come back, we'll look back further at the elections here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Hi, this is Carl Krumsick. Why do you need a monument? It's a place to visit, to remember, and to begin healing. At Krumsick Monument Company, we're locally owned with low overhead, so families can honor their loved ones without overspending. We offer complete services of cleaning, resetting, and adding death dates. Let us design your legacy in beautiful granite. Call 217-825-5197 for an appointment. Krumsick Monument Company, 114 North Webster Street, Taylorville, Illinois.
Hello, I'm Will Perkins, the new owner of Taylorville Home Source. I'm committed to continuing the local service you've always counted on, along with the same great flooring options, kitchen cabinets, shower systems, and design expertise that Taylorville Home Source is known for. Stop by 1316 East Park, online at TaylorvilleHomesource.com, or via phone at 217-824-6121. Taylorville Home Source, your one source local design center.
Carl Krumsick here from Krumsick Monument Company in Taylorville, Illinois. Find out the many services we provide by clicking our icon on the obituaries page of TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
This is Blaine Cornwell with Prairie State Insurance. To learn more about our products and services, click our icon on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Do you use a Link EBT card to buy food? Please listen carefully. Rules for SNAP eligibility have changed. You could lose your benefits if you don't act soon. Visit SaveOurSNAP.org to learn more about the new rules, how they impact your household, and the steps you need to take to keep your food benefits. Don't wait. Go to SaveOurSNAP.org today. That's SaveOurSNAP.org. Sponsored by the Illinois Commission to End Hunger. Aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, I'm Mark Sanders, and I'm your longtime host, interviewing Shelbyville and Shelby County community and business leaders every week. For some 10 years, WTIM, your information station, has originated its Friday morning show live from our downtown Shelbyville studios. Tune in on AM or FM or online every Friday from 8:40 to 10, brought to you by these great sponsors.
Family Drug, the Villas of Hollybrook, Shelbyville Manor and Corner Copy sponsor the WTIM Shelbyville Morning Show.
CNB Bank and Trust has been helping open doors for Central Illinois farmers since 1854. Find out why they're among Illinois' top ag lenders by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Bob Reddings of the Bob Reddings family of dealerships. See our huge inventory of about 2,000 vehicles by clicking on our ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. It's sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and I continue my conversation with Dr. Kent Redfield, a professor of political science at the University of Illinois Springfield. And we've been talking about the recent spring primary elections that took place. I want to turn our attention now to the Republican side of the governor's race, because Darren Bailey won that race, and I'm interested in terms of how it went in terms of the regions of the state and what that could mean for how the general election turns out between him and the incumbent Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah, you saw the kind of the post-election appearances by the Republican nominee, Darren Bailey. You know, he was talking a lot about how you're going to see him in the suburbs, that, you know, and he's going to be, you know, having a positive campaign in relation to the city of Chicago. And, you know, he was quite confrontational 4 years ago in terms of particularly the attacking the city of Chicago. And that turned out not to be a great strategy, because the percentage of the statewide vote that comes from downstate, traditional downstate, has been dropping and is below, 40%, where, that means that the suburban northeast suburbs, suburban Cook County and Chicago really have about 60% of the vote. And so if you don't run well, at least be competitive in Chicago and suburban Cook, and then win the collar counties, you're going to have a difficult time, getting enough votes out of downstate to balance that off. And so there are some warning signs. If we look at the vote in the Republican primary, Darren Bailey, did not do well in Chicago, which of course is expected, but he also did not win the vote in suburban Cook and the collar counties. Grabowski, who was, came in second overall statewide, was a candidate that was focusing on policy and economics, and sounded a lot like Governor Rauner back when he was running back in 2014, and he did better than Bailey in those areas that we're talking about, the suburbs, suburban Cook, and the city of Chicago. And so, Bailey has a problem. He's got to broaden his appeal. The other thing is he's going to have much less money to run with than he did last time. His campaign 4 years ago got major funding from a billionaire Illinois businessman, Richard Hewland. Hewland is disengaged. He gave some money to Grabowski, but you're not seeing the billionaire support that the Republican Party had 4 years ago and 6 and 8 years ago. So that's a problem for the Republicans. They need to recapture the suburbs, not only where their traditional base was in the northeast suburbs, not only for statewide office, but also for legislative contests and stuff. And so we didn't see a lot that led you to believe that there's going to be a dramatic change from what happened 4 years ago.
Yeah, and we know the role money can play as well. That is Dr. Kent Redfield, a professor of political science at the University of Illinois, Springfield. Dr. Redfield, thanks again for coming on this morning.
Oh, certainly. Always good to talk.
It is good to talk to you as well as always. And thank you for listening to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. More in just a bit.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville. 96.1 FM Taylorville. 107.5 FM Shelbyville. 107.9 FM Pena Nokomis.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Citing what he calls very good and productive conversations with Iran, President Trump is extending his deadline for Iran to